Hi crafty friends, Shana from ShanoukiArt. This is card number 12 in Full Deck Challenge 3. The prompts for this week were holes and drippy paint. I have my postage stamp, which is my constant. I'm going with the color turquoise. And then I've decided to use some of my designs from ArtStacks, as I haven't worked with them for a while. These are from the Happy Scraps kit. I have the Happy Scraps hearts, and then I have the tissue paper with my scribbles. These are available from ArtStacks in print form or digital. I'll put a link in the description box below. And then my carryover item from last week are these little dots or confetti from the hole punch. I'm going to start with the scribbled tissue paper. I'm going to tear a piece and cover most of the card. I'm going to use Mod Podge for this. I am sticking my tissue paper directly onto the face of the card. The cards that I'm using have a linen finish, which makes them not glossy and things attach really well. If you do have cards that you're using that are really shiny, you can try and use some sandpaper or a nail file just to rough up that surface a little bit so that things can adhere to it better. I've also applied a layer of Mod Podge over the tissue paper. I've dried that well and I'm going to trim off the excess. This tissue paper makes for a great background, but I also need to remember that my overall theme is mini collage, so I need to add a few little bits of collage to stick to the theme. I'm going to use just a plain black and white print. I'm going to bring color through later with my drippy paint. For now, I'm just going to stick a few pieces down to create some interest and texture. And for the holes part of the prompt, I'm just going to punch some holes in these pieces of collage. I'm just using my little round punch. Now you'll notice you can't really see the holes much because my background is quite busy with that tissue paper and there's black and white print on the holy paper. But it's more for the texture, and you'll see once I apply some gesso and my color, how that color goes in between all these holes and creates a really, really beautiful effect. So for me, for this one, it was more about the texture. I was trying to see if I could get that piece of vintage paper from a book to look any good on this, but it wasn't working out. So I pushed that to the side, and I'm using a piece of my turquoise paper. It's just an offcut from a masterboard I made. There is some splatter on it. I like the pop of color. It'll probably get covered later, but that's okay. Let's add it for now. I'm going to stick down my little collage pieces. There needs to be a starting point somewhere. And you'll notice that I'm also adding some Mod Podge over the collage pieces. That's because I'm going to be adding some color later, which is going to be a watery medium, and I don't want it to become a soggy mess. So this creates like a waterproof layer. I'm going to add another scribble here. The other ones all seem to have got a bit lost. I'm not sure if this one will show in the end, but I'll add it for now. For my drippy paint, I'm going to use a watercolor powder. This is probably one of my favorite color mediums. It is a watercolor powder. The brand is called Color Burst, and it's by Ken Oliver. It is super concentrated. You probably didn't see any of that powder that I put down. There was so little, but as soon as I put the wet paintbrush, that beautiful color came through. So picking up the paint with my paintbrush, I'm scraping it along the edge of the card and letting it run down. I'm also spraying some water from my spray bottle and just allowing that watery goodness to move all the way around the card. I'm trying not to control it too much. I want to let it do its own thing. Now, of course, you don't have to go out and buy watercolor powders to do this. You can use watered down acrylic paint. You can use watercolors, either in the tube or in the pan. The idea is to apply it all drippy along the edges of the card and then apply some water and let it run down over the surface of the card. And you don't want an even layer. You want it uneven with some darker areas and some lighter areas. I've added a bit more of the watercolor powder in the one corner near where the little punch holes are. I wanted to create a contrast. And to create more contrast, I'm going to add some white gesso. I'm concentrating more on the whiter areas, not so much where I added the turquoise color. And as you can see, when I do that, it makes that turquoise color stand out more. I want this card to be quite bold, so I'm going to edge it with black. I'm using my black watercolor pencil. I'm just dipping the point in some water and then going all the way around. Look how cute those holes look. They're a lot more defined now that we've added color. For my focal point, I'm going to use one of my Happy Scrap hearts. I'm taking a medium size one. I've chosen this one because it has a pop of turquoise at the bottom and at the top. And I think it's a good size, and I like that it is uneven. And I'm going to add my postage stamp on top as part of the focal point. I'm going to add some scrumpled up black thread just behind the heart. I feel because the color tone is quite similar between the background and the heart, it's not really standing out. So I'm going to use the black thread to try and help define it. And because the prompt is holes, I've punched a few holes in the heart. And I went to stick the heart down and then realized maybe I need to edge it or put some kind of a background. So I pulled it off quickly while the glue was still wet. I tried some different colored papers thinking I could create a frame around it, but then I ended up using the black watercolor pencil. At this point, perhaps I should have chosen a different color heart that stood out a bit more, but I stuck to my guns and thought I need to try and make this work. So I thought to try and make it stand out more again because it still was drowning in the background. There was a little bit of yellowy gold on the heart colors, so I thought I'm going to add some gold leaf in the background behind the heart. I feel that looks much better, so I'm going to glue down my heart. And while I'm gluing the heart down, I will tell you the prompts for next week. They are crazy colors and black mark making. If you don't know what that is, you'll have to wait until next week. To add my postage stamp to my focal point, I'm just going to use a stapler. And for my carryover item, I was doing the little confetti dots. I'm going to make them black for this card. I only need a tiny dot of glue, so I'm using a paintbrush to apply a small amount and then placing my little dot on top. And a few more holes in the card just for good measure. One more attempt to make that heart stand out a bit more. I'm going to edge it in white. I'm going to use whiteout, also known as Tipp-Ex or liquid paper. Just remember, it is never too late to join in the full deck challenge. You can join on any deck, at any time, and with any card. We are currently busy with deck number 3. I do have playlists for deck 1 and deck 2, and I'll put a link to those in the description box below. If you are on Facebook, you can also join my group. Just search Full Deck Challenge Group. I love the white edging, I think it looks much better, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of that pink that's at the bottom of the heart with a bit of pink thread at the top, just to balance that color out. Now let me show you a close-up so you can see all the details and the dimension. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I really hope you enjoyed it and were inspired to create your own and maybe even join in the full deck challenge. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell so you're notified every time I upload new content. A new card in the challenge goes up every Thursday. Thanks again for watching, happy creating, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!